Well, Jeff, we're starting a new series on the principles, and I'm really excited about these because of the way they came about and how we've been able to write and grow these ideas. So tell me how they came about because they really started in your brain.
Well, I was driving to Harrisburg one day for work, and it was one of those days when I did not have a book to listen to on the radio, and so I was kind of. It was very quiet, and I was kind of praying, talking to God, thinking about our work and what we do, and it occurred to me that there was some very common themes that were coming up with all of our clients all the time. Um, and when I started to think about them, I started to connect them up to the day-to-day work that we were doing, the help we were doing with families, and I realized that there were basically 7 principles that we really use to work, to do the rest of our work. They all work under these broad categories, and a principle is kind of it's something universal. It's something that's present in every family. These are things that, you know, they undergird everything. They're going to be functioning in the background at all times.
Always, whenever we say principles, we always think of Stephen Covey's principles, and so.
Well, the really weird thing for me was, and I did think of them as principles. And I remember I met with you up in Harrisburg, and I said, "Hey, I got this idea of these principles things," and I really expected you to go, yeah. Let's get back to the work we have to do now. And instead, you kind of jumped on them, and you were like, "Well, what are they?" And it just kind of blossomed from there.
Well, I think what we found universally in our work, there were so many similarities between families, and that we could predict before going into a family what the dynamics look like just by reading profiles and things. And it's not stereotyping them, it's just knowing the stress and the issues and things that's going on. And I remember when we were writing this, it was on one of our drives to, I think it was Atlanta, or it could have been Nashville, but I think it was Atlanta, how we just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. It was just, it kept flowing, and they have a lot of meaning to me because it pops up all the time with families, like, oh, they're either supporting or violating this principle.
Exactly.
And they become, it's like a law, a universal idea, a rule that's out there in the universe that plays out in families. So,
And I mean, these principles are going to be working in families no matter what. Okay, every family is going to use these one way or the other, and no one gets to ignore these.
yeah, and I think when we start presenting them to families, then there's a lot of aha moments that when they've seen it either play out negatively or positively, they say, "Oh yeah, we've seen that happen."
One of the things that makes me cringe on the inside is when we start to get arguments about some of them.
Uh-huh.
You know, the one I'm thinking of the most is the idea that parents need to be self-regulated.
Self-regulating. Yeah, that one came to my mind when you said when there's going to be an argument. That's going to be one of the first.
That's the one. And there's a lot of argumentation about that.
Yeah.
And yet, it's there. It's a principle.
Yeah. So as we go forward, we're going to spend time talking about each principle. So, and it's not just going to be a video per principle because there's a lot of depth to each of them. Therefore, we're going to start with principle 1 in the next video and break it down into a number of segments.
And they're so important because, like we said, they're going to be functioning in your family anyway. And if they don't function, if we're not intentional about making these principles function in a positive way, then usually they're going to be functioning to create deficits in your family in a negative way.
And that takes me back to the word intentional. So much of what we talk about in all of our videos, it's about being intentional.
Yeah. most of us, I think, we fall into parenting with a, yeah, I guess it's time to do that attitude.
I remember because by the time with our adopted son, we ended up in therapy, and he had kids the same age as ours, and we sat there sometimes and just looked at each other and said, man, it's a wonder we didn't ruin our own kids because we didn't go into it with intentional skills or goals or anything. It was just like, ooh, we just roll with it.
And that's one of the reasons I really like what we developed here as far as these 7 principles, because it allows for, once we are aware of them, it allows for a greater degree of intentionality and a way to measure actually how we're doing in various categories.
And just as a therapist, you can write goals around these things. There's so many uses for it.
Yep.
All right, well, I am looking forward to the next video, so thank you all very much.